Okay, now we're live, and hello everyone, and my apologies for the latest start. We're having some technical difficulties, but we are all here and we are very excited to launch the first edition of Scare the Rules. Here with some amazing women that I love and I respect enormously because they are referenced in their fields. And I would love to take this opportunity to introduce them to you. And first, let me give you a little bit of feedback why we started Scare the Rules. As you know, gender equality and women advancement is the passion of many of us. And one of the things that we think is that we need to actually engage more often and more broadly in these conversations so we can learn from each other, we can spread the word and collaborate so we have more women elevating other women. And Scare the Rules is the first one of many of the things that we will do together to promote women advancement. And we choose the name because of two reasons. One is because we want to put a skirt on the rules. We want to rules as women. And the other thing is like a playing on the phrasal, which is basically find a way to get things done without bending. We are broken the rules, just by bending them a little bit. So we can change the rules. So let me introduce you to my colleagues here. Rachel Sambren, EVP of External Relations of Millicom. Rachel is one extremely well-known reference in the industry. She is communications, government relations, and corporate social responsibility for Millicom at global scale. She's from Sweden, so she can also give us not only a global perspective, but also the perspective of one of the countries that is leading in the world in gender equality. So, Rachel, welcome to Scare the Rules. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Serena. Delighted to be here.
Thank you. And also let me introduce you to Maria Teresa Arnal Mariate. Mariate is what I call a Wonder Woman. She has been an entrepreneur, a very successful one. She has been a corporate executive and is currently a corporate executive. She founded her own advertising agency, lead a multinational advertising agency, and is now the managing director of Google in Mexico. So welcome to Scare the Rules, Mariate. It's also a pleasure to have you here.
It's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to be here. Always your generous words.
No, I'm just reflecting on the reality. Thank you very much. And last but not least, my co-founder and dear friend, Susan Fonseca. Susan is a very special person for me. We co-founded She Works and with the objective of helping women get back into the workforce with flexible work models. And Susan is also a referent on the field, the founding architect of Singularity University, which is the pillar of innovation in the world. She's also the founder and CEO of Women at the Frontier, an NGO that is focused on providing insights and promoting women that are on the cutting edge of innovation. So very glad to introduce you to Scare the Rules and to our audience, Susan, and thank you for joining us.
Gracias, hermana querida. Hello, everyone. And I'm just following in Silvina's very amazing footsteps. So I love you too, Silvina.
Well, thank you, ladies. And today we're going to talk about women. We are women, and we hope that we will engage many men in this conversation. Because, as you know, we are half the sky, half the universe, but unfortunately, as rules in the workspace were done where women were not part of the workspace, there is a lot of areas of opportunities for us to get more engaged into the decision-making table and to be part of leading roles at a larger scales, like representing the size of the market that we represent. So I would like to discuss with you first, and please feel free to jump into the conversation on what you think. And let's start with Rachel. Are the leadership attributes that are different from men and women? Why women lead different, and what do we have to bring to the table?
Thank you, Sabina. I think, well, first of all, we have lots to bring to the table. We have as much to bring to the table as men have. I think that's, that's to me sort of the very basic starting point. I think men and women are different, right? We're different in our personal environments. We're different in our professional environments. And I think that in itself is an attribute, having diversity of mind, especially if you look at a company like Millicom, we're a consumer-focused company. Half our consumers will be women. We need to think like half our consumers do. We need to understand what their wants are. And I think, that mindset is something, I'm not saying that you need women to always bring the women's mindset, but having diversity of mind, having discussion, having each other challenging the way of thinking. I think it's a well-known concept that has nothing to do, or not solely to do with diversity, that the more you have a similar set of individuals in a room, the more groupthink you will get. The more groupthink you get, the more narrow-minded you become, and the less you challenge existing concepts. I think, having women in the room, or having any kind of diversity and sort of inclusion, where you have different mindsets, different backgrounds, whether that's from an economic strata, whether that's religious, whether that is, gender, will only add to the rich tapestry of conversation that you can have. It will only allow for seeing different angles much more. It will allow for a thought process and a discussion process that I genuinely believe will ultimately lead to a more rational and well-balanced decision. So I think, that is just a starting point, taking it from the top of the iceberg. Just having women in the room in any given situation, any decision-making process, is proven by so much research to give room for a much more rational and usually much more successful, ultimately, decision-making process, which will be seen in the results that come out. I mean, the statistics shows it. More women in management positions, more women on the board, usually results in a more profitable company in our sphere. That's a fact.
Indeed, and one of the important things is that women make 80% of the buying decisions of the world. So diversity is key. But I would like to move into a related question and ask Mariate. How do you think that women from the leadership viewpoint are adding value to the workspace? Because leadership attributes are usually associated with men's strengths. Like if a woman is aggressive, she is a nasty woman. And whereas if a man is aggressive, he is on point, he is assertive. So how do you think that we can change that? And what are the key attributes that women are bringing into the workspace and men, and how we can work together to make a much more diverse and blended leadership style as a model for the future?
So I think you touch on one word that I would want to repeat, that is a blended style. I think that we have been focusing on stereotypes, not necessarily to the best outcome. And I want to go back to Rachel's point on diversity. I think this is more a diversity conversation than really a gender conversation, because I think that the differences, I don't think that we should be putting women and men into just different buckets. I think you have many different women styles and many different men styles. You can certainly generalize certain things, but I think again this should be more as to bringing different perspectives into a group enriches that group. And I think that we need to go back to the way we are even raising children today, in the sense that there should not be, you have to be like this or you have to be like that because you're a man or you're a woman or you're a boy or a girl. But basically, what are the traits that everybody should be looking for in a leader, right? We're talking about empathy, we're talking about collaboration, we're talking about ambition, we're talking about vision. And these things should go across the board and should not be gender related. And I think women have proven being as competent as men in, the leadership traits of the 21st century. And that's why we should be at the table.
Indeed, and you talk about raising our children. So I will talk to Susan as a mom. as an expert. And it all starts in childhood on how we educate our kids and what we expect from them and what they are supposed to do in life. As a mom of Leo, how do you see the importance of educating boys, in your case, and girls to feel equally enabled, empowered to do whatever they want in their life? And what are your learnings on this regard? How educating boys that view the world in a much more inclusive and diverse way will make a difference in the leadership that we will have tomorrow? Because at the end of the day, it starts in the family always.
Yeah, completely. And I think that education is so key, and to start early. I'm an innovator in residence at the school called Rocky Hill School, and they're looking at transforming K through 12 to the new world of work and the new skills that children are needed. And actually, I was sitting at a 3rd grade class, and it was the children themselves, the boys and girls, that asked me, what is gender equity? What can we do to help the little girls around the world? And it already started so young, where little boys were seeing that in their own language and parameters. Why can't girls play soccer just like little boys? Why can't girls go to school just like little boys? And it was more about equal opportunities, even from when you're young, and what they can do. That is the future generation of start normalizing access for everyone. And I think that's why education is so key. You know, we're going into a world where in the next couple of years, in the next 5 to 10 years, artificial intelligence will be a $47 billion industry. Virtual reality, augmented reality, a $75 billion industry. And these are technologies that are the sea of change. And we need women also in these conversations. And right now, like in the US, only 8% of patent holders have a woman as the primary lead in the patent. So there's so much room to grow and opportunities for women to be part of the conversation. And I think education and shared information is so critical to get more women that opportunity to be at the decision-making tables. And it does start really early. We don't have to wait until later. We need to approach it all at once.
Yes, it's a very important point. I read very recently an article that reports on studies done in the US that little boys and little girls seems that they are equally prepared up until the age of 6 to do anything they want in their life, including computer science. But starting at 6 years old, the girls feel that they are not so good in math, that they cannot be as good as the boys. So education is a key element. I would like to learn a little bit more later on the conversation, what you are doing with Singularity and why Singularity is driving the education on disruptive technologies, exponential technologies, and how it can change the rules of the game. But let me go back to Rachel. And Rachel, and this question is based on your experience from your native country. What do you think that it makes Scandinavia as a region much better suited to reach the gender equality? And what are the cultural differences? Because you are connected with the world. So you see Latin America, macho culture, and the US, not also a very matriarchal culture. And how is it different, and how we can learn from your region to do a better job at driving this, closing this gap?
Well, I think, Sabina, first of all, I am very acutely aware that I've been incredibly fortunate being born Swedish and being brought up, in spite of living also in many other countries, being brought up Swedish. You know, the conversation about gender diversity and equality actually really has never really been a conversation in my life till at a much later age, because it was always a given that you were equal. And that is sort of something that I am very lucky to have had with me from my upbringing, and that perhaps also I realize at times when in discussions like this, or even in our workplace here, means that I don't, I don't feel offended about the conversation, nor do I feel sensitive about it versus the men. And it's easier, therefore, to actually have a more transparent conversation. So I think that is one one thing that certainly has come with me. But I think also what we need to realize is we talk a lot about Scandinavia as a great example. This didn't happen overnight. So if we want to follow or try and replicate the Scandinavian model, for lack of better description, we need to be patient because it's not a change that happened overnight. And it's something that actually goes back almost 40, 50 years in terms of societal changes. And I think there are many, many ingredients to the Scandinavian model. It's not only legislation. It's not only a mindset. It's actually a combination of factors, social factors, as well as legislative factors, as well as norm and transparency. And to give a little bit more detail on that, Sweden already in the 70s had various legislation come in that did basic things on paper, like separation of income tax for wife and husband. That meant that the wife's income wouldn't go, to the husband necessarily. So already they're creating a level of independence. Development of public childcare, incredibly important. So if you combine the taxation, high taxation rates, which is something that we accepted to have in order to have access to childcare, which would allow women to participate in a whole different way in the job market, because they could actually be out there and know that their children were taken care of. Then, of course, introduction of gender-neutral parental leave, so that it would be up to the parents to split the parental leave between them. And it's non-transferable. It's not like the man can say, you know what, I'm not going to take it. Here you go. I give my month or 2 months or 3 months to you, and you take it instead. No, that doesn't work. So that type of legislation started coming in already in the 70s. But that doesn't mean that people change their behavior straight away. And that's what I mean. It needs patience, but it needs a combination of societal norms in terms of legislation that allow for us to live our lives where we can contribute both at home as well as in the workplace, and then a steady change of the norms and the mindset and a celebration of the diversity, a celebration of actually having these women. And because of this happening over time, people have gotten used to it in a different way and now see the value of it. So it hasn't been enforced. It has developed over more than a generation, and women are now celebrated the same way as men are. And I think another important point that comes to that is transparency. The societies are incredibly transparent with everything that has to do with individual ownership anyway. So I could go online now and get the income tax form of any individual if I wanted to. Billionaire down to the lowest level. So everything is transparent, which means there's no hiding. For example, if you look at the difference in pay between men and women, there's no hiding in showing numbers of more women in certain positions than you actually have. So it's also a transparent society, and that is not driven by gender rules. That is driven by, the society itself across every factor. And I think all of these issues combined means that there is a spotlight on it, a positive spotlight on it. There are societal norms that have been created over years because of basic legislation, which was set up to begin with to actually contribute more to the economy. So it's really a combination of a free market economy with socialist ideals that this from the outset. Now, today is different, and it's a lot about women really driving, promoting other women, looking after them because they want to. But that has only been able to come into force by virtue of the society itself having been structured differently from the outset.
Rachel, that's extremely enlightening, and I think there is too much to learn from that. One of the things that you mentioned that particularly impacted me is the mindset. And women, many times, we are our worst enemy. We feel not capable. We feel that we are cheating someone, but it's called high-performing women, the imposter syndrome, that we feel because of magic luck and the universe conspiring to help us, that we are somewhere and someone will realize that we are not supposed to be there, that we got good luck. And it happened to me. My first job as a regional executive back in time in Compaq, I didn't spend money for 6 months thinking that someone will realize that I have no idea what I was doing. This will never happen to a guy, ever. So, Mariate, in your experience as an entrepreneur and also as a corporate executive, how did you feel the imposter syndrome? How did you experience it on your own experience, but also on women around you? Because we get into meetings and we are shy at negotiating our salaries and compensations and how much money we raise. We're always like, please, give me 500,000, never more than 500,000, because if not, you will be too aggressive. So what was your experience? I would love to learn a little bit more about your own experience, and this is one for all of you. So let's start with Mariate and share what you learn, open heart, like all the good things that the girls will hear and feel very inspired by you.
So I think I have to go back, really, really back in my life to answer that open-hearted, because I think that stems out, that feeling and that the imposter syndrome and the always being not good enough stems out of messages that we get when, you know, we are children. I go back to the children phase again, because I do think that it's very important that we start early realizing that we need to raise strong women. So, you know, I look back into how I was raised, and I was always part of a family that would let me do, you know, so many things and gave me many opportunities, especially when that was related to education, you know, and being a better person, etc. But on the other hand, you know, it was also expected of me to be submissive and to be a nice girl, and, you know, these are not girl things, and girls do this and girls do that, and I always say in this kind of conversations that I remember, there are many phrases that I have in my head that I got repeated many times over my lifetime. Once was that women have to ceder. How do we say ceder?
Let go.
Yeah, we have to let go, or we have to be, you know, women have to let go. And this is something I struggle with all my life, because I didn't want to let go, you know, and I didn't think that I had to let go. So honestly, for a long time, I fight with this, and the fight was not necessarily on a professional fight. It was really a personal fight. This was happening within, you know, me, and I was facing this in my personal decisions and in my professional decisions. Okay, even a decision like having children and getting married, by the way, which is expected, right? At least in our culture. And I think that it took me a lot of internal work through, you know, help of coaches and therapists and, you know, professional people that really helped me get to a point where I finally understood that I had to stop. I had to stop trying to fill the expectations of anyone else, and the expectations that I thought were set for me. And I had to define who I was, what I wanted to do in my life, you know, and what I wanted to be. And once I reached that level of awareness and understanding of exactly what is it that I want, all the other conversations were much more easier, you know. And I could have a conversation about salary, raising salary, or, you know, a hard negotiation, or go into a project with much more confidence on, you know, really who I am and what am I capable of doing, despite whatever is out there. And but it took me a long time. This was, you know, years of dealing with my own insecurities and things that I had been hearing and repeating myself for a long time. And I think that when I talk to women and I hear about their experiences, this seems to be a common theme, where, you know, there's a divide between what you want and what is expected. And then, you know, it takes a long time for us to level that and then understand that we can really be and do whatever we want.
Yeah, and sometimes it's just like that. It's like, if you expect and you want to be successful, many times men won't like that. And then there is the expectations of the male energy and the women energy in the relationship. So sometimes we have to even play ourselves down to be socially acceptable by the other gender, especially in the Latin culture. I understand that in Europe it's not so much like like that, but it's I mean, it's amazing. I think that self-learning and self-awareness is probably the best gift that a person gets when they reach 40 or when they're close to reach 40, because you stop caring. You don't give a damn about what other people think, and it's all about you. But talking about that, Susie, I would love to learn from your experience and how you live that, being a woman innovator in a male driven world. And what was the tipping point for you? When did you just stop caring about what other people thought, or if you ever have the opportunity to say that it was never important for you?
I think it's important. I think we all care, and it's important. And as women, we're nurturing. And I think that for me, that's why I'm so passionate about education, because I think to Rachel's comment about transparency and Maria Teresa's comment about self-awareness, I think those two are such key drivers for the change that we want to create as a society. And we're seeing it right now. A demand and expectation from our communities to have more transparency about salaries across businesses, transparency about how dealings are done. And we actually want, and there's research that's coming out about the benefits of creating more competition, more workforce loyalty, better workplace relationships, and an opportunity for the client, consumer, stakeholder to start seeing an organization not as a faceless entity, but as a personal organization when you have transparency. So for me, transparency helps so much this entire conversation of gender equity. And then self-awareness, what we're trying to do both with Singularity University and now with Rocky Hill School and in education in general, is start early by helping boys and girls start to identify what are their personal and unique strengths, what are the talents that they really bring to the forefront, help them better understand how to maximize those skills, connect those skills to their passions. And so a lot of education also has to allow room for continued curiosity, exploration, discovery. And as teachers and mentors, we have to open the door to allow them to do that, because that's how you'll discover not just your passion, but where your passion and your skills meets an industry demand, so that you can create something good and use your talents for something good in the world. And I think that that's why having a better understanding of your own values and allowing those to carry you forward. For me, it's been, I like kindness. I like kindness and respect throughout my personal life. I like seeing it in my professional life. I don't, and I can't be somebody I'm not. And in business, even when I've tried to be this more, when they've tried to coach you to be more effective, be more direct, and they're all good counseling that they've been trying to give me. But at the end of the day, I honestly just default to myself, which is, how can we have these conversations about money, about salary, about leadership, about models of work in a very kind, gentle, honest, and genuine way. And I think that all goes back to what Maria Teresa was saying, is if we can early on in our life start better understanding who we are. I'm part of also an organización, Flor, de Andrea from Argentina, that you're familiar with, Silvina, and she's just a wonderful woman. And her organization looks at how to bring more women into the C-suite and into the boardrooms. And we had a really wonderful discussion earlier this year in one of our workshops about these women at the C-level, about who they are separate from their company. What's their personal brand? And so I think sometimes as women, because of all cultural norms, because of how we're brought up, and we feel so responsible for everyone and so nurturing, it takes us a long time to get to a point in our life where we give ourselves permission to start looking at who are we, just us, just as a woman, not our company title and not all the social titles, but what are our internal values? So I think that's why, and again, I go back to education. If we can start early, helping our boys and girls, whether it's with Strength Finder, Myers-Briggs, mentorship, early on helping them find their own best version, and realize that those versions of yourself change through the journey of your life. Sometimes you maximize on your communication skills, sometimes you maximize on your positivity skills, whatever they are. It's not a set stamp of your brand. It's constantly changing. And CDB, you are like the queen of this. You know how to not just reinvent yourself, but present yourself in a genuine, authentic way for people around the world. And I think that that's what I want to bring into education is both a level of transparency where us as adults also are very open and vulnerable to teach our children that we don't always have all the answers. And that's why I love John Hagel right now as a leading expert of business modeling, because he talks about in the past, the leader was someone who had all the answers. But in the future, a leader is someone who has all the best questions. And I think as adults for our children, we need to let them know that we don't always have all the answers, but we will help them process a great analysis, great questions, and we want them to drive their own inquiry. So I love everything that all of you women are expressing, because they really go at the heart of how we can just present ourselves from the get-go, and how boys can also be part of this, because they're coming up with a sea change also of who are they in this new world? What do they represent? The structure of the pattern and their role models are changing as well. So I think it's education for all of us, really.
I really very much like what you just said. There's a little echo. So the takeaways from here, and we need education, and we need self-awareness, and we need to brand ourselves. So I think that all of them are important points to build a much more inclusive society. But as we represent half the universe, we have half the universe of allies, and would like to discuss a little bit more as women. What do you think we stand? Because there are communities that are extremely successful at elevating each other, supporting each other, doing business with each other, promoting and sponsoring each other. And sometimes we believe or we feel, and it happens to me, that the best partner not necessarily is a woman to drive the importance of equality, that we are not helping each other enough, that we still feel that we compete with each other. We saw it in many different aspects of society, like from here in the United States during the elections. Women were not supporting very much each other. They were much more concerned about what the world will think, what their parents or brothers or husbands, than about their rights and defending on why they need to not be harassed, why they need to be given equal opportunities, why we need transparency, as we said, as transparency is really the new black, to put things out there and discuss them without being at risk of feeling judged or feeling tagged on framed into different or any categories. So what do you think, Rachel, as women, that we can do to support each other as mentors, as sponsors? What are your ideas on this subject?
I think, Sylvine, I think that question actually has an answer that goes back also to what we just heard, the previous question, because, and I want to just start touching on that, you know, to add to what has been said. We all, as women, will have moments where we think, I'm not good enough for this. I shouldn't be here, like you said. I've had that. Everyone has those. The reality is that we are indeed creating that moment for ourselves, because we're trying to be too perfect, right? And I think that is where we have to accept we're all in the jobs or in the ventures or the ideas that we're in because we got there for good reasons, right? So at that point, we have to draw the line and say, we're already there. So don't question it. You're already there. You're questioning something that's a given for all the men around you. And I think that is really, really important, because if we could allow ourselves to accept that we're there for the good reasons and we can give so much more, we would hopefully also be feeling less insecure and less competitive towards other women. Because I think these two things are tied, because the higher up you get, the more senior women you have, or sorry, the higher up you get, the more of the senior women are pretty lonely, right? That's the reality, because they're often one or maybe two out of many. And I think that is where this syndrome kicks in, where they are fearing that because we do not genuinely deep down believe that we deserve to be there, we're afraid that some other women will be picked next and they will knock us off the tree. So these two things are linked. We have to accept that we're all where we're at because we're good at what we do. That's how we get there, because we didn't fool anyone. Men are stupid sometimes. They don't get, it's not like we would have been fooling them on the things that they really focus on, right? That's the one thing that we can't say. So that is where we have to accept we're there for a reason, and there can be more of us. It is not about competition, right? And I think a very important way of taking it, to answer your question specifically, a lot of women feel that they need to be mentored and helped, and I think actually there's a point to say we're having too much mentorship but not enough sponsorship. And those are two different things. Of course, we should mentor and help each other, etc. But sponsorship is really what can drive women in their careers and really can bring them up. And the sponsorship is irrelevant if that's from a woman or from a man. If you find a sponsor, if you have someone who believes in you, it could be your boss, it could be someone that you work with a lot, they can change your career. And that is not based on their gender. So that is more based on you showing them that you perform. Now, as women, we need to be better at sponsoring other women. That is where we can make a difference. And actually a very current example in hand, we yesterday had the whole executive committee of Millicom offsite doing a talent mapping review. Because we've done an exercise of all our leaders to map the talent. And you would be amazed, probably thinking of us as a very Latin focused, primarily telco, that it would be mainly men that we're discussing. No, we're discussing lots of women, and there are tons of talented women out there, and that we all want to sponsor. I, of course, have a role in saying, especially when I can spot talented women, and I will. And I think it's a question of just pushing the guys to look for that sponsorship mechanism rather than mentoring them into to feeling good about their jobs.
Thank you, Rachel. And we have many questions coming in from the public and only 5 minutes to answer them. So I suggest that we can answer them very, very quickly. Each one of us, if you feel very strong about the question that you would like to take on, please let us know. But one of the questions that I will start with from the public is what we are doing specifically to promote and to support women. I will take that. I'm trying to work to create a flexible work environment where women don't need to choose between personal life and work, just by working flexibly and remotely. But I would like to pass on to Mariate to follow me on this answer as well. Very quickly, then Susan and Rachel, and then move on to the other ones.
So what are we doing to support women? I guess at Google we have a very strong stance on this. We have the Women at Group, which is an employee-led initiative within the company that looks at how to promote women within the company, how to better give women, the skills that they lack to advance in their career, but that also look at the ecosystem, because we are very focused on the ecosystem and, not only building on the women that work at Google, but making sure that we work on women outside of Google in companies that are related to the ecosystem technology-wise, and as well into the girls. Girls are a very strong focus for us everywhere else, and we work with many organizations that basically whose mission is to foster technology knowledge, within girls, coding, programming, etc. With the flexibility thing, I think that's, again, it goes back to diversity. I think that's something that also I hear it here within the company. It's not only women that want to have flex time, it's also men who want to have flex time. And I'm very happy that I hear that, because I think that Susan touched on a point that we should not just let it go like that, which is, what's the role of men now? That's something that we really need to review and make sure that we give men the tools that they need to cope in a diverse and gender neutral world. So anyway, your platform preaches that, and that's why I'm a fan of what you do.
Well, I'm a fan of what you all do, and in particular, Mariate, as not in your role in Google, but in your life in general, you have been an amazing mentor and an amazing sponsor as well, because from the women standpoint, as entrepreneurs, we need mentors, but we even more need sponsors, people that believe in us and help us bridge the perception gap that we are doing what we are doing, not between Pilates and yoga classes just because we are bored, but because we actually want to change the world. So I'll pass on.
I have to tell you, I take personal pleasure in seeing women blossom. It's something that gives me, pleasure. When I see women that have so much potential, and that when I see them make the leap between the potential and the reality, because they just, clicked on their mind, I just want to help. I want to be there. I want to make sure that there is so much need in the world for women to get to realize their potential, and there is so much need in the world.
I'm more excited to see girls kicking ass. Truly, it's really empowering. And Susan, you lead from Women at the Frontier, many of these efforts to highlight accomplished women. What are you doing as a woman and through the organizations that you represent to empower other women?
Yeah, thank you so much. And I think, so for me, and looking at the studies, like Harvard had a study that just 5 minutes, just within 5 minutes of somebody looking at a visible role model that is empowering and inspiring can change the course of your journey, of your future profession. And so one of the things that we drive with Women at the Frontier, which is a nonprofit, is exactly that. It's finding, discovering, and featuring publicly the women that are the science and tech pioneers and disruptors of the future from every country around the world. So we are really focused on showcasing visibly examples of these incredible women that will inspire us and that are role models and that are actually transforming the world. And so right now we have that campaign that, Sylvie, thank you so much for all your help and in sharing this with us, but we will highlight for 365 days for a full year, one female innovator that is a visionary and pioneer, a game changer, every day for a full year, a different one from around the world. And we invite everybody to go to the website and nominate their champion so that we can build and have more examples of women. I do think also passing the mic and sharing opportunities and acknowledging people that have helped us. So just using examples. I have an incredible friend, Rebecca Juan, founder of YouNoodle and Rivet Ventures. And there was an opportunity to speak at the Clinton Global Foundation. They had invited her earlier to speak at the International Development Bank. She couldn't do it, and she put my name as a potential. And it was because of her generosity, giving up that space for me, that I ended up speaking. And that's where I met you, Sylvie, at the IDB event. And at that event is where then they invited me to go speak at another forum. And I think it's inviting and each other and passing our own mic and our own stage opportunity to somebody else. What both Rachel and Maria Teresa were talking about is opening up the floor for others, not feeling there's a scarcity model or a limited model, but instead showing examples of how others have helped us. And then we need to kind of walk the walk. We also need to open up our resources, our sponsorship opportunity, our networks for other women to have access to these opportunities as well. So I think for me, that's why, in the things that I do, I like to both show visible, real examples of incredible women. And I also like to always name men and women, others who've helped me along the way as concrete examples of how support can be done. It's not always this very difficult, complex thing of helping each other up. It's sometimes something as simple as nominating somebody else in your place. And I know you've done that for me as well, Sylvie, in venues that support you. So I think that will drive also a lot of change.
Thank you, Susie. And it's spread the wealth. It's what goes around comes around, and it always pays back with great energy and great opportunity to do that. So, Rachel, we are just about to close. I would love to have your insight. You are a reference in the corporate world and also a champion for women empowerment. And I know you are doing a lot at Millicom, but also at the personal level. Would love to share a little bit more with all of us. And we will be closing the first edition of Scare the Rose with many pending questions that we will address in the next episode. So will help us to build the agenda. So, Rachel.
Well, I think at Millicom up to now, we have been much better at focusing on the external environment and the women there, where we have fantastic initiatives, because we realize, coming to some of the points we've touched on today, education is key. Having women actually have internet access, knowing how to use mobile phones, being able to set up entrepreneurial ventures. That is where we have had most of our focus to date, by actually joining programs like Connected Women, where we're committed in all of our operations to close the gender gap in mobile data and mobile money usage, where we have training courses for women, where we have women communities, where we show them how to use the internet, how to set up a Facebook page so they can sell their handicrafts, really empowering them to become economically independent by being part of the mobile ecosystem. So we're doing a lot externally. Internally, we haven't been as good. And there's some internal reasons for that, where we've been missing the relevant HR partners. We're just about to restart that program shortly, and it's something I am very excited about, that hopefully we can finally get it out. But we've also decided that we need to start with the really big topics. Gender bias, training on that point is something we've started rolling out to actually get people just to open up their mind to think about these issues. Are we actually biased? Do people actually understand what this problem is about, down to the very deep roots of it? That is one side of it. And the second part is, we've realized we have so many talented women at younger ages, but we lose them after they start families, right? That is where we need to focus for now as well, to make sure we bring them back and can help them in that second phase of their career. And it's small little things like breastfeeding rooms that we have now made sure we have in all of our operations. Create a space for women to be able to still actually take care of their children if they want to come back at an early stage. Give them the support, have the conversations with their managers to ensure that those managers actually come up with a career plan that works for them while having family. Not putting them on a plane, on Sunday night, not scheduling meetings at 7 p.m. in the evening. Small little things while we're waiting for that bigger program with an HR partnership to really take force, is the small little things that can really make a big difference day to day in a woman's career.
Well, ladies, I can say that today more than ever, I can feel that empowered women empower women. So I'll close for now. I'm very grateful for the opportunity and the pleasure and the luxury of sharing this first edition of Scare the Rose with you. It was very insightful. We will share some of the key insights and the wisdom that you share very generously with all of us in social media. And once again, thank you very, very much. I'm touched. I'm profoundly happy with this initiative, and even more with counting with you as partners on this Millicom goal, Women at the Frontier. Also, special thanks for the team that put this together, Felipe, Maricruz, Jessica, and the amazing partners that help us spread the word and share this with many, many of you, and more to come. Open to ideas and open to more questions that we will be answering in the next episode. Thank you very much. Thank you, ladies. It has been an honor and a pleasure to share with you.
Thank you.
Have a great weekend. Bye.
Bye.